So we'll follow up with a second case study with Hoon Kim, who is a creative production manager at a company that has scaled dramatically over the past few years. And we'll talk a little bit about how they did that. And I think it taps into a common theme that we've been hearing about today, in that of the challenges with content velocity. So with that, we'll turn it over. Fonts are loading.
So just to introduce myself, my name is Hoon Kim. I'm the creative production manager for our internal creative studio, which we call the art department. We're under the organization of marketing, although we basically support all the different business units within Airbnb. And we kind of, we do a lot of prototyping in terms of testing out how things are going to be marketed. So we get to play around. We actually don't have a lot of problems with change management because we're constantly changing, constantly evolving, moving very, very quickly. But before that, do they have the, oh, I don't think that has a play.
Hey guys, so I just wanted to introduce Hoon. So we are Kalo. You may have seen the bright pink banners downstairs. So we're fortunate to play a small role in the creative production operation that Hoon runs at Airbnb. And my background in particular, I've been chatting with a bunch of you today, was I came previously from a creative manager role at Google and MSC Saatchi. And in particular, what I'd seen there was the amount of content we were producing. We had to scale beyond what we could with full-time employees, and we relied pretty heavily on freelancers to do that. And obviously everything at Google and previous companies in terms of onboarding them, getting them integrated with our existing tools, to actually paying them on time was like a huge, huge pain point for us. So Airbnb, we were fortunate today to work with Airbnb, IDEO, a bunch of other customers, and Hoon and his team are definitely probably the kind of like the shining star of examples in terms of like how that can really automate, getting them in quickly, getting them into existing tools like project management software, DAM systems, to actually getting them paid on time. So yeah, thank you for sharing some of the Kalo story.
Great. Okay. So I'm going to kind of go into a little bit of how the sausage is made. It's kind of detailed, but I also, the reason why I love coming here is to hear how other tools work and how other companies use their tools, because you could be either making a hot dog, or you could be making a saucisson or a Thai sausage. They're all different. And it's really dependent on how your company works and also who your audience is. So don't take this as gospel. It's just, this is what we found to work for our team, especially as we kind of innovated. But before I start, this process was actually a prototype for Trips Experiences. And if you haven't heard of Trips Experiences, this is a little launch video to kind of give you a taste of what it is. Play. So that was the launch of the world of Airbnb experiences. And actually today we just announced that we have launched 150 trips in New York City. So we've kind of expanding from the original intent was each of these experiences created, we have to create photography, a trailer, and a poster. And so this is actually in product, and I just want to show you a few examples of what that meant. This is Sharp. This is in Detroit. He is a micro-entrepreneur that is kind of a stylist, and this is an experience that you could book to get to know a local if you're traveling in Detroit. And this is the trailer that, that we had put together. That's one in Detroit. We also do a lot of social good, where the 100% of the proceeds actually go to the nonprofit. And this is a really interesting one that I love. That's in South Africa, Cape Town, centered around Robben Island, and where Nelson Mandela was actually in prison. And it's a social good trip where you actually get to talk to the prison guard who was in charge of that.
There I shook the hand of the man that started the project, and there I shook the hand that ended the project.
Mandela was in this house. What is this house used for? Did you ever think about what it would be like to be in one of these cells?
So again, when we started off, we wanted to create photography that really captured the experience, trailers, and then a poster for each of these. And we started in 12 launch cities. So it was Detroit, London, Paris, Nairobi, Havana, San Francisco, Cape Town, Florence, Miami, Seoul, Tokyo, and LA. So it's clearly a global launch involving a lot of different people in all these different areas. That was launch. So we then had to figure out how to scale and keep track of that because we had an ambitious goal of 50. We're now with New York, we're now at 40. So how do you go from 12 to 40 where each of these cities have about 100 experiences each? So, like I said, they required a trailer to depict the trip experience, photography to kind of show that carousel, and also the posters and illustration. So for launch, we had one Google Sheet with over 300 people going in, changing views, changing data. It did not work. The problem was that people started to not trust the sync and started to create copies of copies of copies, and then all of that, people just didn't know what was the most correct, up-to-date information. So I was tasked to kind of figure out a better way to kind of create a more coherent ecosystem. And what happened is that we actually onboarded these 3 different tools. On the trip formation side, that was kind of what we call the trip market managers. They are the ones that kind of talk to hosts. These are actually different people from around the world that want to do their own kind of experience, and they got onboarded through Salesforce. And then we kind of tested out Rike as a project management tool. And then to bring on the people and pay them and all the freelancers, we used Kalo. So how does this work? So they sign up on Airbnb. We track the initial progress in Salesforce, and then we go through business affairs vetting to make sure that they're legal, they're safe. In Rike, we create the new projects automatically, syncing with Salesforce. We gather all the assets together and then track all of the asset creation and formation. And then we assign those freelancers also through Kalo. New photographers, videographers are onboarded. They're assigned to these trips. And then after completion, they are paid out. So one thing I've learned here is that there is no singular tool that will solve all your problems. And so what we've had to figure out is like, how do you work with the tools that you know is really good at what they're doing, but how do you make them talk to each other? So I found a tool called Azuqua that is about API integration, and to work with Salesforce to create those talk to Rike and to talk to Kalo, and then have it work for us. So on the project management side, we have Rike, and on the people management side, we have Kalo. So project comes in through Airbnb.com, and then to Salesforce, and then the production assets go to Rike for project tracking. So this is Salesforce, and this is Rike, and basically the way that we've organized it by market. And then we have the different, it's kind of hard to see in this, then we have the different kind of assets that we need to create, the different statuses per each of those assets, and then the freelancers involved in each of those tasks. And this is Azuqua, where we have a lot of kind of automatic function to sync all these functionality. So essentially what we're doing is from Salesforce looking for a trigger whenever we need to create assets and there's a viable trip experience, we have one person check a box. It creates a record that is trackable. So we find that record that was tagged, it searches relevant fields, it does a little verification step. We also create a naming convention based upon market. And then that's when we actually create the project from scratch using the Rike API. And then the task creation as well. And then through Kalo, we also use the Kalo API, which just opened up, to also generate those tasks within Kalo. It used to be a manual process. And then we can parse out any fields to add to descriptions so that, again, it's like taking the manual process of all the information that's already in the CRM. And then basically we could send out a notification email. So again, all this stuff used to be manual. It used to be on one Google Sheet. People didn't trust the data, and now it's all synced across 3 different tools, platforms. I've also added an integration, a Google Calendar integration. So when we have scheduled shoots, we know where they are and how many are coming up for other teams to know what to expect. So again, this is all done through API integration. And so the people management part, trips production, teams assigns trips to the freelance pool, and the freelancer pool captures the assets and delivers them to the production team. So the pain points with the people management, what we found is like, we need to find freelancers quickly in a global market. It's hard to onboard freelancers on a one-on-one basis in a global market. It's hard to pay people quickly. Our company is set up as a net 30, and for a lot of these freelancers, it's really hard to ask them to wait for 30 days to get paid. And so we actually lose a lot of business, a lot of partners, because we just can't pay people in time. And because Airbnb is all about working with the community, we want to be good hosts to our freelancers. So in Kalo, we could onboard freelancers through standardized templates. We could ask, like, what kind of camera do they have? What kind of photography do they do? So we can kind of templatize and gather all that data straight off the bat, and then we could see their availability, and then we could assign those tasks to the different projects around the globe. And then one thing that I'm working on is actually to try to automate the task completion, which will generate the invoice automatically. So again, it's just minimizing the amount of touch points that people need to go through. So now, using freelancers at scale, We use Kalo to collect a database of freelancers. We're onboarding and vetting and assigning those freelancers to the projects. API integration of Kalo, right, in the Google Suite products, and where Kalo is the main touch point. It minimizes tools interaction for worker classification issues. It's something that we're very, us and our legal department is very aware of. Being a sharing economy is what classifies as a freelancer and what classifies as a contingent worker or 1099, W-2s. And then we could do automatic invoice creation. And now they're getting paid 3 to 5 days globally. So with these 3 different tools, we have project management, people management, and tools management. And we have transparency, collaboration, and growth at scale. Any questions? Yes.
It sounds like you realized fairly quickly that the Google Doc wasn't doing it for you. How long did it take to implement this API-based solution that you just talked about?
So we launched in November, and we knew that that wasn't going to be a solution. Google Docs wouldn't be a solution moving forward. And then I actually was looking for a different tools solution, and then came across Reich in December, I think, and then started to kind of lay down a foundation starting in January. So by the time we're up and running, it took about 3 months.
That's very, very quick.
Yes, Airbnb does things very quickly. Question?
Oh, thank you. Oh, sorry.
Could you talk a little bit about the Reich selection, what other tools you looked at, and why Reich?
Well, I was telling someone else, we have a lot of kind of enterprise solutions already in-house. Again, they're great for certain partners, certain projects, but we knew that we needed to find something with a little bit of scalability for a myriad of reasons. And so we knew that launch had just happened for experiences, and so we want to test out for the scale for the rest of the experiences and test out this new software solution. So it was like a great timing in terms of looking for that other tool solution, and then an opportunity of actually testing it out in the actual market. Question over there.
Thank you, Hoon. That was really interesting. What you were showing to me, it's a ton of work. Did you have help? Did you have other creative operations folks helping you out to get all of that organized to scale across?
So, yes and no. I would say the thing that I definitely learned about this experience is that it's really great to have a technologist on the team. That just so happened to be myself and had to learn very quickly. That's why I kind of had to find a tool solution like Azuqua to really kind of help with the kind of the integration part of it, because we didn't have IT support to really to build the API integration in itself. So a lot of it was kind of learning on the fly. A lot of it was a lot of iteration, and a lot of the end work that you see here. It didn't start off that way. It was a lot of laying down the foundation, seeing what worked, iterating on the process, and then working with the different production teams and seeing what's working, what's not, what do we need to track. We're constantly iterating. Even this presentation from just a few months ago, we've changed our process a little bit, getting ready for New York launch and also expanding to other markets. But we're able to build off of the foundation for scale.
Just a follow-up question on that. So at this time, all of those launches, so you showed the deliverables, which is, a photographs of the experience, the video. is 100% of those assets currently designed by freelancers globally?
No, so a lot of the assets are actually captured by freelancers, and then those are sent to the headquarters, and then we actually do the design and implementation in-house.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm curious to know about the rollout process for all of this technology once you lay the foundation for how the workflow is going to happen. It seems like that could be just as difficult as putting everything together.
Yeah, so one thing that we're really lucky is that since we're a technology company at heart, and the fact that we are growing and changing so quickly that we didn't have to deal with too much of the backlash or change management of it. Also because we knew what everyone's pain points were going into it. They just wanted a solution. They didn't really care about what the solution was. So just the fact that that someone was looking at this and going, okay, we see your problem, we're going to fix it. That was enough of the rollout needs. And then again, as we did roll it out, we iterated on what was working, what was not. And so it was very much a partnership with the Trips team, and the experience team, and the production team to see what was working, and then making sure that we're working collaboratively.
Any other questions? If not, let's take a 20-minute break. But before that, let's thanks Hoon for sharing in such detail.